YouTubers, we're going to call this the first segment of step 2 in these wad and overshot punch / cutters. So as you recall, this one doesn't want to play nice, whereas this one does play nice. So as with any new die, I will clean it and then I will oil it. So I've got the garage door open right now, so I'm going to go ahead and spray clean these. So I'm not going to torture you with that, and I'll be back in a bit. Alright, we have clean, degreased parts. I have them separated so I don't mix the punches up. And I'm going to now lube them. I found this last year. Love this stuff. And it smells great. It's like, I call it man cologne. Just, I'm a fan. I'm a fan. Manage cologne. Okay, so that sounds a lot better. That sounds lubricated. Let me. Oh yeah, there's plenty on my hand. So this is good. This one good. This one was my trouble. Let me rephrase that. It wasn't as lubricated. I wouldn't call it trouble. I'm sure some of this is getting on the camera because that's the way things go. Oh yeah, that's still a no. Boy, that's gonna be a tight fit. Yeah, we're gonna have to work that one in to the I wonder where that binding is. So that one doesn't play as nice. This one does not. Ooh, yeah, that motherfucker is a little tighter. So our friends at TATV Canada, the tolerances on this one. You know what I'm gonna do? Let me look in here and see if I see any burr. I do not. So now, I do not see anything on here either. I'm going to take a little, but it doesn't operate like this one. This one operates like a piston. This one operates like a broken piston. And I forget which size it is. I think this is the larger size. I'm taking a little steel wool and doing some the other option is to chuck it into a drill with some of the Lee tools, some of the old school Lee stuff, and see if that will help. Don't know. I'm going to wipe this off because there may be some metals on here. No, that just does not want to, yeah, that's a mother right there. Not so great. Not so great. So it looks like it's binding on the uppercut. So everything up to the uppercut is good. And it looks like we're going to have to just work that in with the press. So that will be our next effort. So I'm going to not focus on this one, because this one works fine. We're going to see if we can brute force this into working a little better. Yeah, that's just no bueno. All right, so that's the next step. We're going to bust out an old Lee press, mount it, and again, it's like man cologne. Reloading bench cologne. The reloading room cologne. All right, back in a few. And we are back, and I'll try and maneuver around. All right, so this is the die slash cutter that works, or let me rephrase that operates smoothly. This one does not. In fact, as you can see, it's right at the top part of the cutter where we're getting the resistance. So we'll do a couple things. One, we'll mount this to the Lee cast press, which I've not seen in a long time. We'll call this my 50, well, a lot of it's set up for 50 BMG, but that's because the components for 416 Barrett are comparable. So we will pop that in, and I'm going to dry this off again, and I'm going to oil it instead of spray it. So we have no burrs that I can see, which doesn't necessarily mean anything. As I dance around the camera, pulling out goodies. All right. Then we get to see how much of me we edit out of this. I don't like being in the videos. All right, so we're going to take this really, really slow. Okay, so we now have it in the channel. Ooh, yeah. Very tight fit. So as long as this cutter doesn't come out, which would be right there, because there's a tendency with this amount of play to, see, you can hit the mouth of the die. So I would say the most important part is getting this bad boy, now that I've done that, things do not want to play nice, getting that in. Put a little more. A little more oil on there. Yeah, that's a little tighter than I would have preferred. I mean, it works. But it's speaking to me. So we're going to put the other one in just for giggles so you can hear the difference. Again, I don't know, maybe he was in a hurry to get these out because they were back ordered for so long. I do not know. But suffice to say, it does function. I will clean that out a little bit. And then I'm going to grab some material, making sure I do not pull the upstroke all the way. So I'm going to grab some cardboard here just for, again, giggles. Little sheet of Here's some miscellaneous cardboard. All right, so in theory, it's as simple as making sure. There we go. Okay, so that was a little harder than I would have thought, but, and that wasn't all the way in. There we go. Look at what you're doing, boy. That'll take a finger off. Ah, and I pulled it down too low. All right, live and learn. Live and learn. Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out because I do not want to get the cutter damaged by it's kind of like swaging. It's like a giant swager, only methinks in his next design he might want to open this bottom lip up a case mouth, like a reloading die, so that it centers or finds itself a little easier. Maybe that's a suggestions for our Canadian friend, because right now this is way too difficult to get in. It's harder than it should be, and I'm not a fan of harder than it should be. That's kind of fucked up. All right, there we go. All right, so this is the quality of the cut. It's a nice clean cut. Probably helps when I pay attention a little more. So I would call this just like anything else. You got to get your rhythm. Got to get your rhythm going. And it does require a little force, and it's probably a little messy when you have, depending on the thickness of your material. And again, obviously I'm not paying enough attention with my consistency as I learn the tool. You wouldn't think there's that much to learn, but because of, let's call this, because of how I have the die set up, it's not fully facing me. So let's do that. Let's turn the die so that I get, there we go. All right, so obviously I had the die a little off center, at least not facing me. Again, clean enough cut. Let's try a different material. What do I have? What do I have laying around? Let me get a hard card. I've got foam and cork, but that's all packed away, so I'm not going to dig that out. All right, so again, easy enough. Oh, that looks interesting. I like this one the best. I could make some drawings with that. And once again, I fucking lowered it too much. Oh, that's going to piss me off. Okay, so I'm going to say the one flaw in this guy's design is the fact that let's say the one flaw in his design is it'd be nicer if this was a thicker wall. And I guess it can't be because of whatever. But if this was tapered to some degree so that this cutter, which I can't grab with... okay. Alright, I can't do this with the camera in front of me. I have no leverage. I'll pull out the other one. But it would be great if this particular lip, this one's a little thicker, was maybe tapered in so that this would find its home a little easier. So I'm going to turn the camera off as I muscle this out without the camera right next to me, so that I knock everything over, cut myself, and break something that's new. And then I'll put the other die in. Back in a minute. Alright, I successfully muscled without breaking anything. So this one is the Wad, I believe the smaller of the two. So we will pop that in. That is in. Screw this in. And maybe I'll put a Lee lock ring on there so I know exactly what my depth needs to be, because I don't like this at, I want the shot card to be facing me. I'll call this the opening, the smile. I want the smile to be 100% in front of me, because I am finding that's the easiest thing to do, or maybe off to the right side, excuse me, left side, so that I can see this. And even when this one is down, all the way down, it finds home easier. As you can see, it there's no, maybe it helps if I'm, so when this is all the way down, I'm not having to guide this one in. It finds home a little easier. It's a little smaller, and maybe that's part of the, I won't call it the design, but same level of cut pressure that is needed to cut my wad. Boy, that just sounds so funny. So I have now cut my wads, so we are good. This one, from a noise point of view, a lot less tight, which I'm not worried about, because that will work itself over time. But these are cool little dies, I must say, as Martin Short would say, I must say. So I will tag one more segment onto this and keep to my word of just making it a two-parter. But yeah, this one's a little cleaner in terms of its operation. So that's it for right this minute. Later, folks. Good evening, YouTubers. It is allergy season big time, and my raw honey bee pollen is a great remedy for avoiding those allergies thus far. So today, at lunchtime, I ran over to my local Tap Plastics and picked up the only tubes that would fit. I don't know if you remember, but years ago for my 50 BMG stuff, these are the perfect size tubes for 50 BMG dies. Unfortunately, the 1.25 inch, the next size down, or this, the only size that would be close enough to fit these dies, were too small. So these are, you know, not bad, but not ideal. So what I will do off camera is cut these down to like that big or so. That's one thing we're doing tonight. So tonight's a threefer. This is the last segment, but it's a threefer. I don't know if you've noticed, but I have a cool lock ring. Great size, not the best finish, but great size. That what I will do, I have decided that I like the card, or the cardboard, to be, and I'll show you this in a second. So if my RAM is on the right side, I'm right-handed, I was having challenges putting the card in and seeing the card from my press, because I had, I'm going to call this the smile, the opening. I had it at all kind of weird angles in my previous, and I said, oh, I need to have this directly in front of me like that. So that's not bad to have it directly in front of me, but because I'm right-handed, I'm going to be feeding this. It's going to be easier to feed it right-handed than it is going to be feed it direct, as weird as that may sound. So feeding it right-handed and then operating the, let me rephrase that, feeding it left-handed towards the right side while my right hand, I swear to God, this is honey-based tea. Feeding this left-handed as my right hand operates the ram, I think will be the most efficient for me. So in order to ensure that this seats at this, 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock angle, I've decided I will put this split ring at some level, lock it, so that every time I screw the die in or out, it's always going to lock into the 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock position, like that. So that is, this was number 1, this is number 2, and number 3, if you recall, this is the one had no issue. This is the one that had plenty of issue. Look at that. Look at that. Looky. Now you may ask yourself, gee, dude, reloader, how you do that? I did that by polishing the shit out of this rod. I did that by polishing the shit out of the inside and re-oiling of the die. And you can probably see a difference. Hopefully, I don't know if the camera's picking that up. The difference in the texture. There's a higher polish. You can see the tooling marks on this. But that is wonderful. And now that is wonderful as well. So that when the RAM is operating both of these, they now sound identical in terms of that sound, as opposed to this one, which was squealing like a stuck pig in my previous video. So I will, there's no need to mount those and show that to you because you're just gonna have to take my word for it. Again, I will adjust the split ring in the 6 o'clock, 12 o'clock position. And now that these fall out much easier, I need to keep them together. And then I will cut this to size. Actually, I will. It's kind of funny because Tap Plastics, both the good and the bad, they had, something that would work for me at a reasonable price. Otherwise, I'm looking on Amazon or eBay, and God knows, that stuff's overpriced and it'll take forever to get here. The challenge is they don't sell this size cap. So I only needed the equivalent of one of these tubes because I will cut the plastic down and use the caps. So I only needed 2 more caps. But since they don't sell this size tube cap, I ended up having to buy 2 tubes. So I will not use 1 tube, and I will cut 1 tube down, so I will have a spare tube. But I'll show that to you here in a few minutes, and then we're done with the Overshot card and wad cutter dies. Back in a minuet. All right, for those of you who love to cut plastic with a table saw, or rather a miter saw, sitting on top of my table saw, this is what I wanted. And this is what I got. So I had to do it a couple times till I could get a clean enough edge. So my first tube that'll probably get tossed. This will get saved for some future project. And then I have the original tube and my 2 results, which I'll throw a desiccant in there because these are steel. And even if I oil them quite well, Mother Nature will take its toll. This was my support. So I kind of did, actually it's probably easier to do it this way. I did this where I wanted to cut, taped it off, and then I was able to get clean cuts for the most part. I mean, it's still really thin plastic, so it doesn't play nice. All right, the last thing to do is adjust those lock rings. Do that now and we're done.